Joe Biden. Joe fucking Biden. 4 years ago, as I documented on this channel, when Gribley's Folly became a thing, I voted my conscience by not voting for either Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, and I've regretted it ever since. I will come out, ain't gonna lie, I've regretted it and said I will never do that again. I will always choose the lesser of the evil. I mean, unless like the Democrats nominate somebody like Joe Biden. Never liked Joe Biden. I've never liked the man. And in fact, I have actively disliked the man. I can't stand him, but whatever, you know, establishment politics, gonna establish. And okay, so that's, Democrats, you had one shot. Actually, that's not true. You had 2 shots because you impeached him and you couldn't make that work either. I don't feel like I have an impossibly high bar. Like, I don't think that my standards are so high that there's not a politician in the U.S. that can pass. I mean, basically, look, here Gribley's qualifications for fitness for office for the presidency. 1, be able to complete a coherent sentence. And 2, please abstain from raping people. I am not smoking my pipe during this video because for the past 3 days I have had tightness in my chest. I am 99% sure that it is seasonal allergies, and 99% sure that I'm having a heart attack, and 99% sure that this is just anxiety, and 99% sure that this is COVID-19. I have a pertinent story here, which is that I was talking with a Democrat friend years ago, and we were talking about Hillary Clinton, and they were making some point about something Hillary Clinton, and I said, well, what difference at this point does it make? Parroting what Hillary Clinton said about the Benghazi attacks. And they said, what are you talking about? And I don't understand your reference. I was like, what do you mean? You're like, is that something she said? You're telling me you live in such a bubble that you don't even know the quote? You don't even know about when Hillary Clinton, who is Secretary of State, masterminded the toppling of Gaddafi, when she came out and said, what difference does it make why they attacked our embassy? So it's not that they didn't agree with the criticism or that they had a well thought out defense of Hillary Clinton in the situation. Is that they have blinders on. They're liberal. They don't care. Hillary Clinton's a liberal. They're a liberal. Everything is fine. And now it seems like half of America is in the same situation when breaking news studies suggest Joe Biden is an old freaking creep. Those of us who were on the right, and I know that will surprise some people that think I'm just some liberal with Trump derangement syndrome. Those of us who were on the right, I was a registered Republican until 2016. And I've been calling him Creepy Joe for decades. And now every liberal in America is like, what? This comes out of nowhere. If I'm going to stay true to the Gribley's Folly thought experiment, which I have so poorly articulated over the years because I was too busy fishing, if I'm going to stay true to that, my quarrel is not with Joe Biden, nor is it with President Trump. These men are known quantities. We know who these people are. My quarrel is with the people that continue to support them in such a cult-like fashion. Americans, at base, do not like to do good. Sorry. We like to do good by proxy. We like to do good by voting for people. We take all of our fears and all of our beliefs and we distill them down to the bubble that we fill in on a ballot. And no matter who that's for, it's incredibly hard to admit that you've been played. So after you vote, years later when somebody comes in and they say, actually, this guy you voted for, he's a total piece of shit, you immediately dig in your heels. We all do. We all do, because you can't admit that you've been played. Corrupt politicians are a fact of life. It's how we deal with them personally that matters. And that's what this thing is all about. I don't want to do good by proxy anymore. If I feel like there's some good that needs doing, I will do it my damn self. And if not, I'm going to go fishing. You could call that selfish, and you can say, well, that's a vacillation between having values and not, and you're just trying to absolve yourself of blame. Whatever. At least I don't have to prostrate myself before these idols that we've created in our society that we either hate or can't bring ourselves to criticize. I've lately been advised to be super explicit about all the philosophical stuff on my channel because I don't feel that people are really interfacing with it, and that it reads from the outside as like a kind of cerebral fishing channel. And you know, to be explicit about this, you really have to talk about you got to talk about some hokey stuff, you know, and it's not the kind of thing that is easy to discuss and easy to stay in character discussing. I mean, we all have the character that we present, YouTubers and just people in general. We all have this character that we present, and a lot of those characters aren't really set up to talk about the stuff that's going on here. I think that the base assertion of Gribley's Folly is that each of us has a center. You could call it God, you can call it your morals, you can call it you can find your bliss if that's the, you know, the label you want to put on it. This is why it's hard to talk about. And we all desire communion or connection or alignment with that center. Politicians profit from that desire. Politicians profit by making us think that they're the ones that will enact right or wrong. And they're lying. For me, this was a really big realization. It was a huge life-altering realization, because I had spent all of my life thinking that this was the most important aspect of who a person was, is how they comported themselves in a civil arena. And then I realized that all my life I was missing the point. When I find myself on my deathbed, which might happen sooner rather than later given the consequences of the last election and the one before that and the one before that, I hope that I don't expect to look back and say, oh, if only I had supported more policies. That's not what matters. And I think that since the last presidential election, I've done a pretty good job of finding what does matter. Am I happier? Well, no. The point is not to be happy. We've got a plague spreading and the world is on fire all around us. No one's happy. The point is to know that you did your best to be as close as you could to whatever that center is. And I feel a lot closer than I've ever felt before. So since I'm already talking about centers and being aligned and all that, there was a Persian poet named Rumi. I've never heard him referenced in the YTPC before, which doesn't mean that he hasn't been. I'm sure some of y'all out there know who he was. But the famous quote, he was like the Maya Angelou of the Persian Empire, I think. Oh, I'm going to be on Oprah's book club. The quote that always floats around from Rumi is, out beyond ideas of right doing and wrong doing, there is a field, I'll meet you there. And everyone always uses this to say that Rumi meant that there is no right or wrong, there just is. There's just being, there's just whatever. No, he says ideas of right or wrong, out beyond ideas of right or wrong. What he means is that all the stuff that we fight about, all the stuff that we come up with and fixate on, I mean, it's just ideas. It's not actually right and wrong. It's ideas about what are right and wrong. He's not saying that right and wrong don't exist. He's saying, look at yourself, man. You think you're the one that knows what right and wrong is? Bizarrely, the times in my life when I feel like I have glimpsed that field have been times of great crisis. And, you know, the specifics that come to mind are like when my wife and I argued about how we were going to do labor and delivery when our kid was born, and we were arguing, oh, there's only going to be 2 people allowed in the room. Who should those 2 people be? And are we going to do it this way, that way? And then, you know, you're standing over an incubator 15 weeks before your kid was due, and all that stuff you fought about doesn't really matter anymore. When my kid was in the hospital, we would, every day that we visited, and we visited every day, we would open the porthole of his incubator, and we would read to him the 23rd Psalm, and that was not a psalm that I had ever really like dwelt on before, and this is such a gribbly thing to think about during that time. But yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death is totally redundant. Like, why not just walk through the valley of death? Like, of course it's a shadow, like, because it's a valley. Why is it a valley of the shadow of death? And and then after a while, after a few weeks of that, I realized what that meant, because my kid didn't die, but he came very close on more than one occasion. And that time was a time in which every time the phone rang, we wondered if we were going to be called to the hospital for the last time. So it wasn't death, but it was the shadow of death. And I think that as Americans, we are living in the valley of the shadow of death. 62,000 people so far. If this isn't the shadow of death, what is? So when I see people on social media, when I see people in the media, Stacey Abrams comes out, who's of course gunning for the VP nod under Joe Biden, and she comes out and defends him against these accusations. I just want to say, don't you know it's too late? It's too late. Trumpkins, it's too late. The jig is up. We're here with this thing. It's with us. We're standing in the field. And our choice now is to say, oh my God, I've been given this incredible moment of clarity. And I'm here and I can see the grass waving and I can see the clouds overhead. And this is the field. Or to say, I'm scared. This is terrifying. I'm going to elect someone to do the right thing. I think it's too late for the America that we see in the media, being social media and regular media, the America that we know when we think about America. I think it's too late for that America to make the right choice there. But I think that as individuals, we've been given an incredible gift to be able to look at these people and see them for what they are as they wave their tiny little arms at this force of nature that's killing us all. It's an unbelievably clear moment. And I think that when those of us who make it come out on the other side, some of us will remember the field. Well, I didn't quite expect that rant to end up there. I've been down here talking to my phone for 2 hours now, and I think I'm going to go upstairs and make some coffee and tie some flies. Thanks for watching. I hope you are well and safe. Keep the ends out for the ties that bind.